Many thanks to the organizer of this event and also Lead Beckett University. I'm very happy to be here with you today. So this presentation explores how Quebec's evolving language situation has impacted graphic design, pushing designers to balance between form, politics, and identity. It's important to know that it's still a work in progress, but I'll show a few of my findings so far. So to give you a bit of context, I'd like to start with a short movie clips.
All right, fellas, all right, just act normal, all right? Act normal. Not normal for us, normal like for regular people.
Good day.
Hi.
May I see your license and registration, please?
There you go.
Thank you. Oh, Americans. Welcome to Ontario. Sportsman's Paradise.
Isn't it, though?
Would you please get out and step away from the vehicle? Okay. What is wrong with this picture?
No snow tires.
No.
I was, driving on the wrong side of the road. I can explain that. You see, I'm not used to your rules up here, and I was...
That's not it. This writing on the side of your vehicle.
Oh! How did that get there? Those kids at the garage, I just stopped for, like...
Whatever. My concern is the sensibilities of a certain distinct and viable part of Canadian society. Les Québécois.
Huh?
You know, the wine drinkers, pea soup eaters, French Canadians.
Oh, yeah, those guys, sure.
If you wish to avoid prosecution, I would advise that you comply with our language laws, which specifically prescribe that all signs be in both English and French, Canada's two official languages.
Okay.
I do have to fine you. That'll be $1,000 Canadian, or 10 American dollars if you prefer.
Oh, no, I'll pay the American there, yeah. There you go, buddy. What do you want, 10? Thank you very much.
There's your receipt.
Thank you.
And now, in French, if you please.
So let's backtrack a moment to understand the historical situation of French in North America. In the early 1600s, both France and England established colonies in America. And around 1750, France controlled a very large territory. But in 1763, France lost its North American colonies following the British conquest. And from that point on, Britain began efforts to assimilate French Canadian. After the American Revolution, many loyalists left the United States and settled to Canada, forming much of the country's English-speaking population. The Constitution Act of 1867, which declared Canada as a country, recognized both English and French in Parliament and federal courts. But Canada became officially bilingual only in 1969 with the Official Language Act. In this presentation, I'll focus on Quebec, where the majority of French-speaking Canadians are located. In the early 1900s, daily life in French-speaking Quebec revolved around Catholicism, family, and rural traditions. The Catholic Church exerted a very strong influence on both spiritual and social life. Around 85% of Quebec's population was Francophone, forming the majority of the working class, while a small English-speaking minority dominated much of the province's commerce, industry, and finance. However, in the 1960s, Quebec underwent the Quiet Revolution, a period of rapid change. Power shifted from the Catholic Church to the provincial government. opening society to the world, embracing modernity, and fueling a new sense of Quebec identity, which kind of culminated with Expo 67. The official Expo catalog is a good example of how designers got creative with bilingual context. For the cover, the designer Roger Lafortune chose a practical solution. He enlarged the word guide, which is the same in French and English, and added next to it officiel and official, in blue for French and in red for English. In Quebec, the color blue is linked to French identity, rooted in the royal fleur de lys embodied in Quebec's flag. By contrast, the red came to represent English and more broadly the Canadian identity, reinforced by the red maple leaf adopted in 1965. Inside, there's a simple but effective two-column grid, one for French and one for English, that organize the content. It feels quite modern, but not quite international style or Swiss style, as the text is justified and it mixes different typeface, optima for title and univers for the body text. And also the use of illustration doesn't align quite with Swiss style. I also found a bilingual invitation made a couple years earlier that also play with the same, with a word that is identical in French and in English. Invitation, invitation. Actually, French and English share about 1,000 words, which apparently go back to the Norman conquest of 1066. The design used a very nice folding system to separate and organize the content, while the word invitation links both languages. One challenge of working with French and English is that it follows different typographic and formatting rules. For example, in French, it's recommended to use the 24-hour time system instead of the English-derived 12-hour format with AM and PM, which this invitation doesn't respect. Designers create ads in both languages and got creative with the translating taglines. Here, both slogans play with the idea of time, but differently. The French one suggests modernity and belonging, while the English one leans more toward leisure and relaxation. Instead of direct translation, it shows how advertising was tailored for Quebec's different audience. The arrival of European immigrants brought modern design influence to Quebec, particularly those associated with international style and Swiss style. Here we see the work of Design Collaborative, founded by Rolf Harder, a German, and Ernst Rock from Yugoslavia. Both are trained in that manner, and with a logo from Alan Fletcher. The Swiss grid proved to be a very efficient way to organize multilingual information, as shown as in Canada's proposal for the Milan Biennale, which presented content not only in French and English, but also in Italian and German. These posters, designed for Montreal Museum of Fine Art by Fritz Gottschalk, a Swiss designer, got creative with the grid to balance French and English content. And they're also using univers, kind of a favorite of the Swiss style. In this Canada in Space booklet, one half is in English, and when you flip it upside down, the other half is in French. I especially like the center spread, which forms a clever transition. The same space illustration showing technology orbiting around Earth is used in both languages. Since it represents outer space, the upside-down layout feels natural as everything kind of floats. Not everything was translated. Some ads appear only in French and others only in English. It's hard to measure the exact proportion between them in the 1900s until 1977, when Bill 101 was passed. But many observers note that the visual landscape of Quebec, particularly in Montreal, looked predominantly English, even though most of the population spoke French. A print magazine article from 1976 explains how Quebec federal government introduced a bilingual signage system using symbols to improve communication across the country, as visual sign can be quickly understood regardless of language. In addition, Public Works Canada had introduced the interim policy on bilingual signage, which established layout rules: English on the left in English area, and French on the left in French-speaking area. Building on this idea of communication beyond language barriers, I came across a 1967 exchange between Calder, an English designer, and Gilles Robert, a French-Canadian. Written as part of Dare's proposal for the Etaipai, the letter shows him arguing that an international phonetic system would only deepen linguistic divides. Instead, he envisioned a universal script that could bridge them, perhaps alluding to Canada's own linguistic tension at the time. Dare also encouraged Robert to represent Canada's younger generation of bilingual designers in Quebec. Even if Quebec was going through major reforms, frustration among French Canadians was still growing. Tension peaked at the Expo 1967, when French President Charles de Gaulle declared "Vive le Québec libre," long live free Quebec, a moment that thrilled nationalists but angered Ottawa. Around the same time, Quebecers were also speaking out against social and linguistic discrimination. The phrase "speak white," once used to insult French Canadians, was reclaimed in a poem by Michel Lalonde. In 1969, a conflict between Francophone and Italian immigrants over the language of school instruction sparked protests that led to Quebec's first major language laws. And there's actually a really nice documentary that was released last year by Felix Rose. Two language laws, Bill 63, which promoted French but left parents free to choose their children's school language, and Bill 22, which made limited access to English school, were passed. But then the most important one was adopted in 1977, which is called, the popular name is Bill 101, but the real name is the Charter of French Language. It made French the province's only official language. And it established French as the language of government, education, and business. This one had quite an impact on graphic designers because French had to appear as the dominant language on multiple, all kind of communication material. It kind of made Quebec became unilingual, only French. In the following years, the changes became visible in everyday life. For instance, arrêt signs became the new standard. Posters for event and exhibition were now only in French. Over the time, though, the law evolved to allow bilingual exception. The growing affirmation of French language and identity in Quebec, along with the social and political change of the Quiet Revolution, led to the 1980 referendum on sovereignty. Voters were asked to whether Quebec should pursue political independence, but 59.6% vote against it. My favorite design from this period, which kind of perfectly encapsulated this pivotal moment in Quebec history, is the cover of IMASCO 1979 annual report, designed by Ernst Rock. The company message conveyed both loyalty but unease. At a time when many Canadian and foreign companies feared that Quebec's potential separation could threaten the economic stability. Since its adoption in 1977, the Charter of the French language has been adjusted several times, and sometimes sparking strong reaction, such as this protest in 1988. Today, the Office québécois de la langue française is the organ responsible for enforcing Bill 101. Its website outlines how the law applies to areas like signage and advertising, and detail possible infractions and fine for non-compliance. Views on Quebec language laws remain diverse. Some see them as powerful example of protecting cultural identity, while others view them as restrictive, with negative effects on education, commerce, and openness. Well, this research is still in progress, with many questions remaining. Studying Bill 101 is particularly complex because its shifting amendment, its fragmented documentation, and emotional weight, making it difficult to analyze it objectively. But ultimately, this research is part of a bigger plan, which is to understand how modernism was adopted in this and reinterpreted within this specific context. Thank you.